r/EntitledParents, entitled mother cut babysitter's pay for flirting with her husband. Story 1. I began babysitting within the close-knit community of my church during my childhood. I was the go-to babysitter for over 30 families, mostly tending to kids aged between 12 and 16. This role made me a well-known figure in the community as I had grown up attending the same church since the age of 4. It was a tight-knit group where everyone knew each other and familiarity was the norm. One of the families I frequently babysat for was the Smiths. I'd known the Smiths since I was 10 years old and they had children younger than me. We often collaborated during children's masses where I helped out with the kids. A connection extended beyond church to school, further strengthening our bond. In a community like ours, everyone was connected in some way. Now let's jump back to that particular incident. I was still quite young when it happened. The Smiths had enlisted my babysitting services and everything seemed to be going smoothly. They had a pool in their backyard and the dad, in his considerate manner, had suggested I bring a bathing suit. He mentioned the kids might want you to swim with them if you're up for it, but it's entirely optional. On the babysitting day, I spent about 5 hours from 1 to 5 looking after the kids. After 4 hours, the husband returned home primarily to take a work call. However, he also insisted to assist with the kids and afterward my parents would come to pick me up. Just about 20 minutes before the dad's expected arrival, the kids expressed their desire to go swimming. I agreed and we all prepared for a dip. I had chosen a modest bathing suit, but it became evident that my chest was more developed than others my age and even the mother of these kids. When the dad arrived, he checked in to ensure everything was fine and I assured him that it was. He mentioned that he would find us after concluding his work call, which he did around 5. He then mentioned that he needed to take another call and asked to take a photo with me and the kids to send to his wife, explaining that I would be looking after the kids for a bit longer due to his extended call. Things continued to go well until the wife arrived. The kids were having a great time and we were all in high spirits. I assisted in getting the kids dried off, showered, and changed while the wife prepared to take over, and the husband started working on dinner. I was in my oversized shirt, leading the kids downstairs when the wife gestured for me to come over. She pulled me aside and began to berate me. She accused me of dressing inappropriately and implied that I was attempting to seduce her husband by my choice of swimsuit. She called me promiscuous, questioned her own judgment in trusting me, and labeled me as dirty. She went on to criticize my appearance, specifically targeting my chest, insinuating that I was inviting trouble with the way that I had dressed. I was utterly shocked and taken aback, especially considering my age at the time and the fact that my swimsuit wasn't revealing by any standard. In tears, I nodded and apologized profusely as I had never faced such an accusation before. After receiving my payment, I sat on their porch, waiting for my mom to pick me up. I could hear raised voices from inside, with the husband eventually coming out, giving me $50 and returning to the argument indoors. In the end, the couple filed for divorce as it turned out the wife had an affair with another man. Later, she disclosed her insecurities about her own appearance to another family I babysat for, shedding some light on her behavior. To clarify, the husband wasn't a bad person and his children were very nice. It was evident that the wife's insecurities had been the root cause of the whole issue. Oh man, talk about drama. The mom here had me going, big mouth strikes again. You know, that song from the British band The Smiths. Anyway, she really went off the deep end on the teenage babysitter. Seriously, why go all out on a young girl who did absolutely nothing wrong except for wearing a swimsuit while chilling out in the pool with the kids? It's just plain awful and disrespectful. I mean, could it be that she's been hitting the movies a bit too hard and now she's got a bad case of babysitter envy? She's painting the worst picture of this girl for no reason. Maybe she's got a bunch of stuff going on in her head. Who knows? But the most surprising part is that her words say she doesn't even trust her own husband. She's implicitly accusing the guy of being a predator. Maybe it's not just trust issues. Maybe it's a sign she's not really into her husband anymore. Talk about a major red flag. Yikes. And then the wife unleashed a barrage of groundless accusations, cut the babysitter's salary, and made disparaging remarks about her appearance. Frankly, that's completely unacceptable. She even resorted to using the sinful notion of predators targeting girls as an insult. By doing so, it appears that the wife harbors some disturbing beliefs and is a supporter of victim blaming. That's really horrible. Then there's the big reveal. She's so insecure about her own assets up front. Now I'm thinking maybe she's using that as an excuse for her affair with another guy. So not only does she disrespect others, but she's also neglecting her own family. Pretty wicked, right? Maybe it was for the better that the wife and the husband divorced. No one should have to put up with a partner like that. It's just heartbreaking that the teenage babysitter had to endure all of this. No one should have to go through such a traumatic event. But hey, here's a takeaway for all of us, just in case we ever find ourselves in a similar situation. In a relationship, it's crucial to address insecurities, doubts, and concerns with your partner directly and respectfully. No need for baseless accusations, name-calling, and hurtful comments involving innocent bystanders. This story reminds us that destructive behavior and negativity can have a ripple effect, affecting not only the person who has it, but also their families and everyone around them. So let's do our best not to follow the wife's footsteps.
Psst. Let's be honest. Does your room look dull as sh**? Yeah, well, most do. Luckily, I just launched Rufus rugs. Custom, hand-tufted rugs. And no, this isn't some BS dropshipping company. We have a warehouse in Canada where me and my friends hand-tuft every single rug. So if you're looking to bring your room to life with some awesome anime rugs, or literally anything you can think of, we can get it done for you. From Rick and Morty to The Last Airbender, we've got you covered. Hit the link in the description to get a free quote.
Story 2. Karen's unpleasant surprise after using my mom as a free babysitter. Okay, so here's a story about my fiance, Bean. I've had his mom and dad confirmed it was real, and I'll do my best to retell it here from what they told me. I hope you enjoy it. So it all started when Bean was in the first grade. There was this woman we'll call Karen, and she would send her entitled kid over to Bean's house frequently without confirming it with Bean's mom's first. This kid would stay until 9 or 10 p.m., way past a first grader's bedtime. Bean's mom would have to call Karen just to come and pick up her child. Karen lived down the street and she was home all day, so it felt like she was using my mom as a free babysitter to avoid dealing with her own kid. Bean and the entitled kid would play together just like regular kids, but there was a catch. Entitled kid was incredibly aggressive. Then, when they were at school, he would make fun of Bean, acting like he was the odd one out, and even telling Bean he wasn't allowed to hang out with him. But strangely, they'd still play together after school. Karen wasn't any better on school grounds. She and her son would make fun of many kids while dropping off or picking up their own child, calling some of them mean names, and Bean remembers entitled kid saying one kid looked like a Mongol. Shockingly, the school didn't take any actions at all to stop this, and none of the parents wanted to do anything about it or were too scared to. One day, while dropping Bean off at school, Em and her son decided it was a perfect day to pick on him. According to Bean's mom, they were calling him fat and stupid and said she was a bad parent because of it. She overheard this and finally had enough. Mom waited until most of the kids were inside, but not before Bean. She confronted Karen and said, "Listen here, you jerk. I'm going to punch you, and I'm going to punch you hard." This was Bean's mother, one of the nicest people I've ever met, going into full mama bear mode. As she had promised, she punched the entitled mother hard in the face. They both ended up in a no-holds-barred brawl, complete with all the moves you'd see in MMA or on your local playground. The principal eventually came out, broke up the fight, and called the police. Bean's mom and Karen were escorted off school property and told to go home. Later that night, the cops showed up at Bean's house. They asked questions about what happened, and of course, Bean's mom told them everything about how they were bullying kids on school property. Since the school hadn't done anything, she decided to defend her own child. Surprisingly, the cops left without arresting her, but in the next couple of days, she received a summons to court because Karen had decided to press charges. Bean's mother never bothered going to court because she knew she was in the right, and to our surprise, she never had to pay any damages or charges. Parents who saw or heard about what happened congratulated her and said they were glad someone finally stood up to Karen. However, both Bean's mom and the entitled mother faced consequences. They were banned from school property for the rest of the school year, which was a bit unfortunate. Bean had a school play during that time, and his mom had to stand at the back of the field to watch. Oh yeah, one more thing. Entitled kid stopped coming over to Bean's house. To clarify, Bean just remembered these details, but please remember that I'm not familiar with the legal system or how it works. I've only been involved with the police once for a missing person, so nothing related to an attack. We were also a bit confused because nothing seemed to happen when Bean's mom received a summons. We're assuming that Karen dropped the charges, possibly due to legal fees or a change of heart, but we can't be sure. Bean also recalls his mom's mugshot being taken, but we don't know when exactly, whether it was before or after they showed up at their house. The police do have a case on file, so she probably has a record for it, but we're not sure about the specifics. Now, for those wondering what happened in the new school year when the ban was lifted, they still lived in the same house down the street, but Bean moved to a new school to avoid Karen now that she was back. Whoa, Bean's mom totally laid the smackdown on that Karen, and honestly, she kinda deserved it. I mean, resorting to violence isn't the best move, but you've got to admire the mama bear instinct, right? She wasn't just standing up for her own kid, but for all those others who were getting bullied by Karen and her son. And seriously, a grown woman picking on little kids? That's like bringing a cannon to a water balloon fight. Look, Bean's mom had been holding back for a while, so probably trying to give Karen the benefit of the doubt. But as we all know, some people just don't change, and Karen was the poster child for that. From body shaming to xenophobia, she had a PhD in being mean. So when Bean's mom finally let out her frustration with a punch, it was like a pressure cooker finally releasing steam, and boom, Karen's face met her fist. When the school staff swooped in, you could tell they were clueless about what was happening. I mean, how had they missed all this bullying going down right under their noses? Karen clearly taught her son that being a bully was cool, and he followed suit like a mini-me. It's a real shame when parents pass on those bad habits to their kids. And let's not forget about how Karen used Bean's mom as a free babysitter without even asking. That's some next-level irresponsibility if you ask me. I mean, come on, basic parenting etiquette, anyone? But the silver lining here is that maybe, just maybe, Karen had a change of heart and started teaching her son some better values. Quite a long shot, but people can surprise you sometimes. Looking at the bigger picture, this story shows us that schools need to step up their game in preventing bullying. It's a real problem, and it's on the adults in charge to make sure it doesn't get out of hand. If the school had only dealt with Karen's antics earlier, we might not have had a showdown between the two moms. In the end, we can only hope that Karen turned over a new leaf and started teaching her son some positive lessons. Change can be slow, but it is possible. Fingers crossed for a better future, right? Story 3. Ma'am, I'm a lifeguard, not your babysitter. So there was a minor incident at my pool a few years back in the summer of 2014 during one of my first years working as a lifeguard. It's not as dramatic as some of the other encounters you might find here, but I thought I'd share it nonetheless. For context, it's a small homeowners association pool that often struggles to have enough staff, to the point where we typically have just one lifeguard on duty, if we're even that lucky. The pay isn't great, and a shift is only 4.5 hours, but you also have to deal with the occasional entitled individual, so it's a mixed bag, I suppose. There's a specific rule stating that unless a child is 16 years old or older, they must have a parent or guardian with them at the pool. I had never really had to enforce this rule until that day. A woman, our entitled parent of the day, arrived with her 5-year-old child, set the kid down, and attempted to leave. Now, since we require people to bring passes to prove they're part of the neighborhood and to make sure they're not on the list of individuals banned from entry due to unpaid fees or other disputes, I called out to her and politely asked if she had her passes. She stopped, had a slightly annoyed expression, walked back around the pool, handed me the child's pass, and tried to leave once more. I then asked if she had her pass or any form of ID on her, but she continued walking toward the exit, seemingly not having heard me. I asked the child to stay put and went after her, explaining that she needed to present a pool pass or photo ID if she wanted to stay. At this point, she responded rather rudely, stating that she wasn't planning to stay, had some errands to run, and would return in an hour, expecting me to watch her child in the meantime. I replied as calmly as possible, "Ma'am, I cannot allow your child to be on pool property without supervision." Her answer, "Well, you're here, aren't you? Just do your job and watch her then." I calmly responded once more, "My job is being an associate at Walmart and a lifeguard here, ma'am, not a babysitter. If you'd like to hire me as one, my fee is $25 an hour. Otherwise, I'll need you to either stay here and provide your pool pass or driver's license. We accept the latter as an alternative form of ID if someone doesn't have their pass, or pay the $2 guest pass fee. Alternatively, you can choose to leave with your child." My smart aleck response seemed to upset her and she demanded to speak to the person in charge. Knowing I was the only one on duty at the time, a fact that would remain true when I became the head lifeguard the following year, I informed her that she was speaking to the person in charge. However, if she wanted to speak to the head of the pool committee, I'd be happy to give them a call. She agreed to that, but not before hurling a few choice words and adjectives my way, none of which should have been spoken in front of her child. She also threatened to report me for my attitude and for not doing my job. I went over to the phone, called my boss, and explained the situation before handing the phone to the woman. I couldn't hear their conversation, but it was evident my boss inquired about what had transpired because she repeated my comment verbatim. All I heard after she finished was my boss's laughter. Needless to say, the poor child didn't get to go to the pool that day, and that's the only aspect of the situation that I regret. This isn't the only entitled person/parent story I have from my time working as a lifeguard, and I hope to share more soon. Really, what's with these entitled moms and their parenting styles? This mom here is unbelievably annoying. Imagine being on the job and along comes this entitled parent who decides to add some responsibility in the form of a child to your workload. I mean, there's no sign anywhere that says free babysitter services, right? Seriously, what on earth makes entitled parents think they can just pass off their responsibilities onto other people? And not just anyone, but complete strangers. That's next level carelessness, right? What's even worse is that she didn't even have the courtesy to greet the pool staff and ask if her plan was okay. She's got this attitude like she's some kind of deity walking on earth expecting everyone to bow down to her, no questions asked. Ugh, that's some seriously irresponsible parenting right there. It makes me wonder how well that child is being looked after with a mom like that. I mean, come on. The lifeguard here isn't just thinking about himself, he's also concerned about the child's safety. I think the lesson we can take from this lifeguard is that as an employee, you've got to know your rights and the boundaries of your job. So when situations like this arise, you'll know how to firmly say no and let Karen know it's a no-go. And for all you parents out there, remember that you're the ones primarily responsible for your children. Sure, some might argue that society also has a role in looking out for kids, but parents are expected to be the primary caregivers. Make an effort to change any negative habits and show more compassion to others. We need more positivity these days, not toxic entitlement. Everyone's trying to face life's challenges, and being an entitled parent doesn't help. Story 4. Karen stealing a child's Starbucks. Now, let me give you some context first. I had a 12-year-old sister with Down syndrome and autism. My mom and I took her to the doctor, and as a treat, we decided to swing by Starbucks afterwards since she absolutely adored it. So my little sister and I strolled into Starbucks after the appointment, leaving my mom in the car. She had recently had back surgery, so we didn't want her moving around unnecessarily. We walked in and I placed an order for myself, my mom, and my daughter back home, and of course, my sister. Now here's the thing, my sister was already pretty upset, stressed out. She had just been through a painful appointment with way too many shots for her liking. But the one thing that could brighten her day was that Starbucks drink. I walked up to order, and in line behind me was Karen and her kid. I paid and we went to sit at one of the tables to wait for our drinks. However, my sister wasn't having it. She was running around like crazy. Then the sweet barista came to the rescue and asked if she wanted to watch her make the drink. So I walked over with my sister to a part of the counter where we could see what was going on. My little sister was mesmerized watching the barista mix the drink and add all the good stuff. By now, Karen and her kid had finished ordering. Karen went to sit down and her kid wandered over to us to watch as well. I didn't mind at all, and both the girls were having a blast watching. My little sister even got to put her own sprinkles on her drink thanks to the kind barista. Now here's where the drama unfolded. As soon as entitled kid saw my little sister putting her own sprinkles on her drink, she started begging to do the same. Here's how the conversation went down. Entitled kid, I want to put some sprinkles on it too. Barista, well, sweetie, this is actually this little girl's drink, but you can put some sprinkles on yours when it's ready. Entitled kid, but no, I want to put sprinkles on this one, practically wailing. At this point, Karen swooped in. Karen, what's the problem here? Barista, your daughter wanted to put some sprinkles on this other little girl's drink, but I told her no since it doesn't belong to her. Karen, well, why can't my daughter put some on it too? You let this other girl. Barista, Like I said before, this isn't her drink, and I did mention that she could put sprinkles on her own. Entitled kid. Mommy, I want to, please. Karen. Well, we're not putting sprinkles on a pink drink, so just give her the darn sprinkles. At this point, my little sister was getting overwhelmed from all the yelling, so I tried to take her away. But she was so determined to get that drink that she wouldn't budge. The barista slid the drink over to me and my sister, but right before we could take it, Karen snatched it, gave it to her entitled kid, and completely ignored us. My little sister started screaming and tried to grab it from entitled kid. She got scared and ran behind Karen. While I was trying to calm my little sister down, entitled kid took a sip of the drink and spat it out onto the floor. Entitled kid. Mommy, I don't like this. It tastes like throw up. Karen. Excuse me, this isn't the drink we want. My kid obviously doesn't like it. I want a refund. Both the barista and I were left completely stunned. The barista started trying to reason with entitled mother. I didn't catch everything that was said because my sister started having a panic attack. Once again, I tried to leave with her, but this girl would not budge without her drink. Eventually, Karen and her child left, throwing the drink in the trash, but what they said next left me speechless and furious. The barista told them they needed to pay for the drink, and as Karen was walking out the door, she said, "Tell that little insert slur toward people with mental disabilities to pay for it." I was boiling with anger, but I couldn't react. I was just frozen in shock that someone would use that word around a child. Anyways, the barista apologized, let my sister help make another drink on the house, and even tossed in a cake pop as a sweet gesture. Now, this story is just another example of how parenting can go completely off the rails. It's both infuriating and heartbreaking to see that some parents, some people, can stoop so low as to do this kind of stuff to another person, especially a defenseless girl with special needs. That level of self-entitlement is like a toxic contagion that seeps into their kids. Just look at Karen and her child. They're giving off vibes of a wicked stepmom and stepdaughter. Karen's kid seriously lacks basic manners, and we know exactly where she picked that up. They act like they're entitled to ruin everyone's day, customers and employees alike. What's the point of that? Sometimes you just wonder, do they even understand the concept of respect? Meeting people like that is just plain awful. Honestly, if I were the manager, I'd ban disrespectful folks like Karen from the coffee shop for life. Teach them that they can't verbally harm others and traumatize a girl with autism without consequences. I mean, allowing customers to behave like that can seriously tarnish an establishment's reputation, right? Sure, we uphold human rights, but this is a blatant violation of those inherent rights. Seriously, Karen is the kind of person you'd want to cancel, not just on the internet, but from every shop and place where they insult others and spread negativity. Make them learn a lesson they won't forget. But you know, when you think about it, these toxic individuals often choose their targets because they believe the other person can't fight back. In this case, a little girl just wanted to enjoy her drink, but they still had the guts to ruin everyone's day. Yet there are times when entitled moms push things so far that the other party has to stand up against them. A person with a sound mind and good heart wouldn't do this to anyone, let alone a child with special needs. Instead, they'd show compassion and care. Insulting them is the lowest of the low, and those who do it reveal their own lack of humanity. Hats off to the barista and the sister in this story for handling such a horrendous situation with grace and proving that you don't need to stoop down to the level of your aggressors to show you're in the right. So to all of us parents, I'm hoping you're not passing on bad attitudes to your kids. Please don't teach them bad behavior that could get them in trouble down the road. There's really no need to flaunt your own self-worth. If you truly deserve respect, you'll earn it by being kind. As Leo Tolstoy wisely put it, a man is like a fraction whose numerator is what he is and whose denominator is what he thinks of himself. The larger the denominator, the smaller the fraction. Be humble and the good things will come naturally. If you like this video, then you won't want to miss r/AITA. I will never accept my sister or her life choices. Story 3 was amazing. I'll see you there at the next one. Thanks for watching.